Welcome to Nerds of the Old Republic, the podcast where we drink and discuss nerdy fiction, and where the bell means points, but the points mean nothing. I'm Adam.
I am Sean.
And I'm Mike.
This is episode 3 of season 2 of this nerdy podcast of ours, and we are so excited to be back. Today we are discussing an OG in the sci-fi world, Neal Stephenson's... No, I'm just kidding. That seems to do really well for us, so I just wanted to work Neal Stephenson in there somehow.
Or I was panicking for a minute.
You are not prepared. No, we're talking about Phillip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. But first, we need your help, fellow nerds. If you're on Podbean right now, we see you. Thanks for listening there. Share our podcast with one other Podbean pal or whatever your digital buddies are called. If you share a podcast with but one new nerd, you'll change the life of 4. Them and the 3 of us. Are you not into killing robots? 1, weird. 2, it's okay. You can have your thing. Don't leave yet, though, because after this episode, we are talking about Bladerunner, which is more murder robots. But in November, we're talking about darker sci-fi pastures with something more like hard sci-fi in... I should have looked this up. Shixon's Lose? 3-body problem? Is that how...
I have no idea how it's pronounced. Yeah.
Mr. Lose.
I'm just going to tell you that sounded great.
Problem.
I think that's dead on.
Thank you.
Yeah. You better be prepared next time, then.
Fuck.
Do your homework.
So many notes.
Oh, no. The
notes.
fix is already in. He's got to stick by it now.
That's true, yeah. Even if it's wrong, I apologize to you, Mr. Lou. The 3...
Chris.
Damn it! The 3-body problem, which is soon to be a Netflix original. I found this out while getting ready. Excellent. We had picked this before that was even announced. So read it before it's cool, and then hate on everybody who didn't read it before then. Or just listen to us and pretend you were cool in the first place. It's cool. We won't tell.
Read cool things before they're cool.
That's right. Coolio.
Damn right.
Cool.
Oh, we got pouring out for Coolio now.
Was it Coolio?
Yeah, man.
Oh, fuck. I'm sorry.
Yeah, don't pour out the black label. Do we got something cheaper we can pour out?
I'll pour it down my throat for Coolio.
There you go. We'll pour one out down our throats.
Perfect. I like that.
I know it wasn't his exact thing, but gin and juice, is that what one would pour out for Coolio?
Sure, Coolio would just like the gesture.
Sure.
He would appreciate the fact that we're honoring him in death.
That poor guy. 59. Anyways,
I know, it sucks.
moving on. Yeah, life is short. Take advantage of it. And in that vein, we are going to take a drink of Johnny Walker Black. If you have read the book, if you've seen the movie that spawned off of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, it's Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049. Man loves himself some Scotch whiskey. So that's what we have in front of us here. We have a very simple drink. It's very hard to mix up, though. Buy yourself some Johnny Walker Black. Open the bottle. Pour it into an appropriate glass. So we're going to feel like Harrison Ford because that's where we're at right now. We've got some Johnny Walker Black in front of us. Gentlemen.
You should be on the Food Network, Adam. That was really nicely done.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, you know, I've always been told I have a face for radio, so if they let me on the Food Network, then somebody was wrong. But have you guys had Johnny Walker Black before? I know I have.
I have, yes, many times. I don't believe I've ever bought a bottle of it, but I've had, I've just had glasses of it at restaurants or in bars. It's I'm more of a smoky Scotch, peaty Scotch kind of guy. I like the stuff that comes from the Isla region. But as far as the more traditional, less smoky, peaty Scotches go, the blended Scotches go, Johnny Walker Black is a good one.
I don't know, honestly, because I am the refined drinker of the group here, so...
I just fake it well.
I'm just going to pretend that I haven't and be pleasantly surprised when it's good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I mean, personally, I know it's good. Like, I enjoy it. I had... You know how, like, when you first come into your drinking age and you're, like, figuring out what you want to drink and you kind of, like, emulate yourself after somebody? I found that, like... You know, for example, my father-in-law really liked bourbon. So I was like, well, how do I get into that? How do I get into the adult world? You drink bourbon or you drink scotch or something. So I started with Dewar's, which is the everyman, the everyday drink. Yeah. And then it's fine. It's fine. But then, slowly worked my way up. And Johnny Walker, I think red is the baseline.
It's the Dewar's.
Right?
Yeah. Equivalent, yes.
Yeah, that was where I moved over. And then... never had the occasion to buy black, but when my first son was born, they bought me a bottle of Laphroaig, which is a very nice scotch.
It used to be my favorite before I discovered the peaty, smoky scotches.
Yeah. I think I'd be into the PD smoky now based on my love of mezcal. But back, yeah,
Definitely.
Everything goes back to mezcal for me now, apparently. All roads go through burned agave. But like that was my favorite for a while. And then I just moved on to more American like ryes and bourbons rather than like the Scottish stuff.
Man, am I glad I did not emulate my dad. God, I mean, all
Was
right,
it
guys. Tonight
Schlicks?
we'll be drinking some Red Dog, as we've been mentioning several times, or we'll be drinking. I don't know, was it Black Velvet's Canadian whiskey?
Ooh,
That was
whiskey.
for a good occasion. Otherwise, it's Wild Turkey.
Put a collared shirt on. We're drinking the Black Velvet tonight.
Colored shirts in my dad's wardrobe. I don't know.
Well, I mean, just us in general, I think, So, well, shall we then, gents? It's at the
Yes.
right temperature. We are at the right temperature.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, that goes down very well.
Wow, it almost seems to evaporate when it gets in your mouth.
Yeah, it's about as quintessential of a regular old blended Scotch as you can find. It's a little nicer than the Johnny Walker Red. To me, what I always liked about these kinds of Scotches is, this might sound weird to say, but it has like a very woody taste to it. I
can appreciate that.
Yeah.
I always get a little bit of, like, surprisingly for a Scotch too, a little bit of caramel
Yeah.
in the black.
Is it weird that I'm getting like old bowling alley vibes?
Did you used to drink Johnny Walker Black in a bowling alley?
No, but I'm just getting like that, or like the old like Polish places where you go into the basement and it's paneled and it was like a food hall and they serve you pork chops and sauerkraut. No one's getting that. Okay.
How did you know what my house was like? That's weird.
See, most people, speak in terms of like flavor notes, but Sean and I really
Sean has location notes.
I don't mean this as the insult it probably sounds like. I really appreciate the atmospheric notes that you've given us on the beverage.
Maybe that should be my new thing. Memories of drink.
You know what? It's almost like terroir from your history, like the earth notes that you get in like grape varietals for wine.
Yeah.
No, it's like Sean's terroir. This is where I'm from. This is what it was.
This reminds me of Cheektowaga, circa 1987.
Wow.
Yeah.
You remember that one laundromat that was down there on Main Street, about 3/4 of the way down on the right? It tastes just like that.
Yeah, the linoleum was peeling and everything, but man, that place was hip.
It's a good laundromat.
Yeah, Stanislaus will treat you real well down there.
It was right next door to the smorgasbord.
Oh, the all-you-can-eat smorgasbord next to the Polskas that will give you the Krupnik. Yeah.
That's right.
Wow, we just became like that SNL skit from Chicago real fast right there. All we need to be is like, duh, Bills.
Yeah, we just need the Western New York equivalent of it. I'm going to go watch the Bills.
Very good nasal A. You nailed it. All right.
My aunt's going to be there.
Oh, no. Your aunt?
I can attest as someone who lived in the South for 8 years. I always grew up in Buffalo believing that we didn't really have an accent, at least not one that I could hear. And then as soon as I moved to the South and was away from it for a while, I would come back to Western New York and I would be like, oh, fuck, we have quite intense accents here.
Yeah, if we went to like legit journalism or broadcast school, they would train us to say, marry the woman's name.
Yeah.
Marry a person. And Mary as in like merrily.
Yes.
In 3 different ways, but not in Buffalo. That's all the same word.
It's weird because we do have like, it's a Great Lakes vernacular, which is close to the Midwest, but there's just that little hint of annoying. It's just baked into it.
We trade Appalachian Dutch for annoying, basically out of it. All right, gents. Well, I'm glad we all enjoy it. If you at home have yourself some Johnny Walker Black, Red, or what's the other one? Green? Blue.
So there's green and blue. Green is like step up from black. I think that's the only one I haven't had. I don't remember having it. Blue will run you between $200 and $300 a bottle.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's out of my range.
Yeah, if you're looking for something, casual to
That's
drink.
like a new PlayStation in my household.
Yeah. If you're looking to throw a little bit of weekend cash at a bottle, here you go.
I have had blue one time, and I went into it prepared to be cynical and say, no way this justifies the cost, etc. It was quite good. It was definitely the smoothest, and I don't necessarily look for smooth in a Scotch, but it was the smoothest Scotch I've ever had.
Don't you hate when that happens? I'm I'm going to hate this, so I never buy it again. And then you're like, actually, this was pretty good.
I was just a cynical asshole.
Am I broaching etiquette here by grabbing the food too?
No, I was just about to
put that
transition
right up
out
by the
to,
microphone so we can
ASMR.
get your ASMR ready. So one of the things that we're getting ready for the next cast for Blade Runner is we've got ourselves some ramen. So enjoy your beverage of choice. We're here sipping on Johnny Walker Black, and we're going to have some ramen, and we'll see you on the other side. All right, and we're back. So, the book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, where an android hunter struggles to catch the newest model of androids, keep his professional distance, and his electric sheep alive. How's that for a bad synopsis?
No, I think it was appropriate.
work for me.
Okay, all right. So, let's talk. Did you guys have any background about this? Did you come to this cast having read it before?
Well, I had seen Blade Runner. It was one of those, I was kind of late to the Blade Runner hype, and it was on my list of, like, great sci-fi that you have to see before you die kind of thing. So I went out to my public library and picked up a DVD copy of it many, many moons ago and convinced my wife to watch it with me, who has no interest in this kind of stuff.
God bless her soul.
And I remember falling asleep a few times trying to gut my way through it, but we'll talk more about that, I'm sure, later. But I've read other Dick stuff before, like the World War II...
Man in the High Castle?
Yeah, Man in the High Castle I had read before the show and everything, because I just heard about this, Nazis and everything, and it's like the Japanese, if they had won. And I thought it was really, really cool. I liked his magical realism going on with it. I thought it was really neat. And then that was pretty much it. I think we all know about Philip K. Dick at this point.
Yeah.
His influence on the sci-fi genre and just speculative futurism, that kind of thing. And that was really all I had as background coming into reading it. I'd always wanted to read it and just hadn't gotten around to doing it until now.
Mike?
Quick side note to compliment Adam for his Asian noodles, which our audience should know were outstanding.
Fantastic ramen. Yeah.
And, of course, we had those because those familiar with Blade Runner will recall the famous scene where that's Harrison Ford's order on the street right before he gets arrested and taken in and sent back out on his mission to kill replicants.
And it makes an appearance in Blade Runner 2049 as well.
Is there a noodle scene in Blade
Ryan
Runner?
Reynolds
Did I miss that?
eats noodles a couple times.
Oh, is that when...
Ryan Reynolds.
Right.
What's his name?
In 2049.
Gosling.
Ryan Gosling. When
they're the same person to me. I'm sorry, Ryan Reynolds Gosling.
Movie if Deadpool played in that one.
Look for that next.
Ooh.
But so my background with this series is, I guess I was aware that the movie existed till I was in college, but I didn't really know what it was about or have any interest in it. I think I may have even confused it with the Blade series of movies by Wesley Snipes. But we had to watch it for a film class that I took, and I remember, it was one of those movies that like I saw, and I was just like, oh fuck yes, like this is my shit right here. It was really good. And, I'd seen it a couple times since then. I read the book that we're about to discuss probably 8 years ago or so. Of course I've seen Blade Runner 2049 more recently. So, I have pretty good background with it.
Yeah.
Can we do a Blade Runner mashup of some kind? Like,
I'm surprised it hasn't been done already.
Honestly, is it because Wesley Snipes would be against it?
Well, I don't think he would. Wesley Snipes hunting replicants?
As a vampire?
Replicants?
Vampiric replicants.
Oh my god,
Jesus.
The ideas.
Yeah. It's funny, Mike, you say getting it confused with another movie, because for the longest time I had confused Blade Runner with The Running Man.
Oh, man.
So, like another sci-fi, dystopian, speculative fiction, but not the same text. Not at all.
Can I get a mashup with that? Blade and Blade Runner.
Prisoners who have to play a game escape with their lives while hunting replicants and being hunted by vampire hunters.
The levels,
this is
layers right there. I mean, Netflix, are you listening? HBO, this is how you make your millions.
We're going to have to edit this out of the cast before we release this, because someone will steal this.
This is true.
Isn't this a poor man's copyright, though?
Yeah,
like, we have a timestamp.
Yeah, that's true.
It is our IP. We own this. Nerds of the Old Republic. Copyright.
That's right.
2022.
There you go. So it's funny that we all have such different backgrounds with it, but it's always been a book that's like, especially if you're in the English field, it's always been around. I've always seen it on people's like bookshelves in classrooms or whatever, but never had the guts to admit I had never read it until this cast.
Is it one of
This
those
is my
books
first.
that people admit, or they refuse to admit that they haven't read it, but they'll have a copy on their shelf, and they might fake their way through a conversation. Oh yeah, androids, yeah, and then try to deftly maneuver the conversation in another direction. Because we all have books like that.
Oh yeah,
admit it.
Every 18th century English novelist. Those are my books that I haven't read and talk about.
I have Don DeLillo's Underworld on my bookshelf, and I've never got past page 400, which is like a third
That's
of the book.
impressive, actually. Almost as long as Termination Shock.
Yeah, but you know what? Much, much better. I just haven't had the endurance to finish it. Underworld, I would like to finish. Termination Shock, I regret that I had to finish.
Yeah, I appreciate your dedication to the cast. There's no way I can give you those 3 months of your life back, but thank you.
Well, I mean, we do this for the money.
You can't
Indeed.
see us wiping tears away from our eyes right now.
Yeah. So this book is a lot about what it means to be a human. There's Deckard administering tests to androids, trying to figure out if he can, I love the phrase retire them. What a nice, Orwellian euphemism for killing a sentient being. Right? And he also has this existential crisis towards the latter half of the novel. What did you guys take away from Deckard and his conflict with the androids when it comes to, being a human? Because that was a central point for me when I was reading this.
Well, to me, one thing that separates the book from the movie, and side note, all future references to the movie in this cast will be about the first one, Blade Runner.
Harrison Ford.
Is that Deckard in the book is the protagonist in the sense that he's the main character that we follow, but he's not a sympathetic character in any way. The Harrison Ford character in the movie certainly is, sort of I guess an anti-hero maybe, but he's sympathetic. I think most of the audience looks at the character and likes the character. And I don't feel that, maybe it's just me, but in the book, I mean, he's basically this cold, calculating dude who has a list of people to kill and a gun, and he's doing it for capitalistic reasons. He wants the money so that he can buy, what does he want to buy? A better home for his family? No, he wants to buy a symbol of wealth that will, elevate him in society.
A more alive animal.
Exactly. So there's this interesting thing in the book where the humans are represented as becoming less human, even as the androids are constantly, it's discussed that they're getting more and more human in their construction. That.
You mentioned something that was interesting to me. The sympathy we have for Deckard in the movie versus the book. Do you think that's because it's Harrison Ford?
Maybe.
He's impossibly charming.
That's fair. I mean, in, what was it, 82? It was very early for Blade Runner. And so, still, did that predate Raiders of the Lost Ark?
No.
I didn't think so. I thought
it
those
was
were
right
mid.
after Empire.
Okay.
And it was, it might have been contemporaneous with Raiders. I'm thinking about it, right? That might have been 80. It's hard to... They're all like that. It was that level of Harrison Ford, though.
But you have a point. There's that point early in the movie, the famous scene on the street where he orders the noodles, and then they come and they tell him he's under arrest, and he flashes that cocky Han Solo smile, and he's like, "You got the wrong guy," and it's impossible to not just be like, "Oh, he's awesome."
Yeah.
He's got that roguish charm.
Yes. In the face of what would be in other novels or in other texts, Orwellian or Kafka-esque police force that you just can't fight against. He's like, nah, go fuck yourself.
Right. He's got this swagger,
Imagine it was Tom Selleck or, I don't know, Robert Redford or some other leading man from that era. Would that change your the way you see that character? But that we're getting in the movie. I'm going to bring it back to the book.
But it's interesting, though, that obviously there's a lot of play between the two. So when we talk about Blade Runner in the next cast, we can tie back. I've got a lot of things to add to that. But you were going to say about humans and empathy, and
I just feel like the book it's certainly a product of its time, and you read it now, and I'm not sure what the publication date is, but we can maybe check that out and get back to you on it. But it was it's got that 60s futurism, but he's also playing around with those humanistic ideas, what does it mean to be a person? And I saw a lot of the things you saw in it, but I also saw Deckard is sympathetic because of the fact that he's gone through something traumatic. And when his wife says, why do you have to retire these poor things? Or she's all upset about him, what his job is. And he tells her, well, it puts food on the plate for you or whatever, or it pays for this, that, and the other thing. and his quest to get the animal so that he can have his empathy restored. And that fucking thing they do when they touch like the love tester thing or whatever, and they're going through like having
the
rocks thrown
empathy
at them.
machine.
Yeah, the machine.
With Mercer.
They've got this other thing that like can adjust their mood, which is, you know, one of those hand wavy science fiction things like, oh, you just program the mood you want and it gives it to you. It's, again, like you said, it dehumanizes those characters, and I think that actually builds a sense of not empathy but sympathy for the characters, that they've lost something.
Yeah,
they've absolutely lost something. And, you know, it's like, he gets into his questioning himself even more deeply when he meets Rachel and that other, they don't call him Bladerunner.
Luba.
The other guy.
Oh, no, the other...
Who is a replicant.
Yeah.
And he's like he's like, yeah, I guess it's cool, you know, like it really blurs a lot of lines when he gets to that point. And I think that's what the filmmakers were going for too, is that blurred, like, what is what and what does it really mean to be human kind of thing.
Yeah, I actually connected when I was reading this text a lot to Fahrenheit 451, which for years I've taught. And, you know, the opening moments where Guy Montag is like trying to revive his wife who's trying to kill herself from sleeping pills. And then she's always hooked to these or addicted to these machines. You know, it's not an empathy machine in that book, but it's like the seashells that are pumping, calming, soothing stories to you the whole time. As is, what's his name? It's not Buddy. I almost said Buddy Guy, but that's a musician. Guy
Montag.
Well, I'm sorry, in Fahrenheit 451, but I mean in Do Androids, it's that host of the TV show that Isidore has on the whole time.
Buster Friendly.
Thank you, Buster Friendly. Yeah. So like, I saw a lot of connections there, and I'm like, okay, I get this. We're all dehumanized. None of us have emotions that we want to feel, and we are unable to self-regulate. So we're just going to use a machine to like, you know, make us feel feelings, like in Fahrenheit 451, where we just pump pills into our body the whole time.
It's very Bradbury-esque when you mention it. Like I got that same kind of feel.
Well, and that's why I bought it. Actually, I didn't, because I buy into Bradbury. I bought into the empathy machine and the emotion. I can't remember the name of the emotion box that they used to feel things, but they would dial numbers to feel whatever.
That's the most interesting thing to me about dystopian fiction, is because so much of it, you know, on the surface seems like, oh, that's silly. That technology doesn't exist. But it's the concept that matters. And when you think about like what the function social media, for example, serves in our life right now, is it not basically the empathy machine? Like, what feeling do you want to feel today? Dial up those topics on Twitter. Yeah. And if you want to feel outrage, that's sure easy enough.
That's all
to do.
The internet.
Yeah, that's exactly. But we have entire entertainment complexes and news media and social media and everything built around telling us however we want to feel, you know, or I guess validating however we want to feel and multiplying that feeling.
It's a great connection.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, thank you.
So we are living in already Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. Well, I mean, it is 2022.
Yeah, I mean, according to the date range here, we're right in the midst of it, man.
Yeah. I haven't even touched on that. But do you guys know of the Turing test?
Yeah.
The test to determine whether or not a computer program has become sentient.
We talked about that with Ex Machina.
That's right. Call back to Ex Machina.
Our listeners should go listen to that episode. It was a great one.
As soon as I asked, I was like, oh man, yeah, no, we talked about this. So they didn't have the knowledge or that test for this book, or at least Phillip K. Dick didn't write about it. So do you think the tests that they devised would be enough in today's world to separate out a human from an android? I'm not talking Optimus from Tesla's robot, because that's a piece of shit. But I mean like a really good humanoid robot programmed with, you know, the best facial recognition, the best facial features we have. Would their Voight-Kampf do it, or have we surpassed that?
Well, they're looking for a quality that is unique among all living creatures in empathy, right? We really don't know if any other animal is capable of empathetic, like true empathy. Because you need language, you need other things to really express that. And it's, that bell does not count, by the way.
No.
It's
great point, Sean.
It's like, it's just one of those things where whenever you think about an android or an artificial intelligence or whatever, it is programmed by its creator to respond or to quote unquote think in a certain way, where, you know, the Voight-Kampf test and everything that we talk about in the book, or that he gets into, it's designed to find out what is just an analytical response that you're supposed to think is the right response versus what is a really truly human empathetic response. And I don't think artificial intelligence will ever get there.
That's comforting.
It can't unless it evolves organically, right? Because human beings, our capacity for empathy comes from our social nature and the fact that we have to survive. AI doesn't have that. If AI is programmed a certain way, it'll react a certain way. Unless you put AI into the realm of survival of the fittest, it won't develop empathy. It can't develop empathy. Which I think is where a lot of sci-fi authors who try to push things in that zone, they kind of miss the point. Like, there's a certain selection that leads to that, right? And I've never seen that reflected in any literature before. I don't think Dick gets it either.
He actually says the opposite. Like, there are certain times in the book where the androids, especially at the end, that little coven of androids that are hiding with Isidore, are like, well, you'll blow me in too, right? Like, you'll just give me up. You'll just give everybody else up. And even though those three, came as close to, like, acting as a group and feeling empathy for one another, they were ready to give up the goat. They were ready to just kind of, like, not worry about the other androids and just be themselves.
Selfish preservation.
Yeah.
And that's a programmed response. That's not something you can have evolved into your being.
I don't have much to add here. It's tackled a little differently in the movie, obviously. With, there's it's implied, that strong connection between Roy Batty. Is that the android's name? Am I saying the correct character
Roy Batty?
name?
I
Yeah.
want to say Beatty.
Well, the thing is, in the book it's 1 T, in the movie it's 2, and I don't understand why.
But between him and the female replicant, he seems to be genuinely upset at her death, and then he himself is, like, shown in the very final climactic scene to be capable of, like, deep reflection on life and time and memory, and he ultimately chooses, when he's in the position to kill Deckard, he chooses to forgive him, and instead he sort of dies in this very, sort of like, there's all this imagery of angels and in the movie, and he the way the light shines on him and his white hair is meant to bring back up that, like, fallen angel thing. These creatures are being punished for the sin of rebelling against their creator because they want to become like their creator. So anyways, all of this is to say, I think it's handled more in the movie with the idea that artificial intelligence can get there, that they are capable of these deeper feelings and empathy. But in the book, not as much. They're not only ready to betray each other, but they're killed quite easily, as I recall from reading.
Yeah, honestly, no offense to Deckard, but he takes out 6 of the newest models in one day.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, he's dead tired, and he did, fucking android.
Right.
So, like, that takes something out of you.
And they basically just stand there while he kills them.
Right. Yeah, literally.
Yeah, they're just cool with it.
He talks about the resignation, with the exception of maybe the first 2, who, like, try to fight a little bit. Yeah. He's, like, angry at the resignation that these creatures show, not trying to preserve their own life.
Yeah.
After much being said about how dangerous they are. And how risky it is to even go after them, because they'll get you.
Yeah.
They sure don't.
Yeah. No. So, speaking of getting you, this is the second text we've read or watched that has the trope of a female android character using their body to, like, distract a male character to get what they want. I know this book predates Ex Machina, as we just alluded to in a previous cast, but what does this book bring to that trope of, like, the man falling for the female android? Is there anything new, or is there anything that's kind of, like, crossed over from Phillip K. Dick and kind of permeated into culture? What do we see there?
Honestly, I felt like it was almost forced, where she just, like, it's like that. The only way they can do it is in the 60s, right? Like, oh, I got to meet her at a hotel. Oh, we're gonna have sex. It's like it's like this sort of, like,
he had a half second of resignation.
Yeah, but it's this, like, preordained ending to the idea. Like, it's like, I got to have this in here because my male readers want this titillating moment kind of a thing, even if it doesn't really work.
So do you think it stems from, like, the Pulp Fiction days or the science pulpies?
I think there's a certain level that any author in that time have to almost pander to the audience a little bit. Like, was it necessary that he has sex with this android? did it really drive the story? It's not like in the end he winds up... I mean, he does sort of form this emotional sort of attachment to it in a way, but it doesn't really resolve. Right. You know, like there's no like real payoff to that moment. It's just like it could have easily just been like they had an intimate moment. It didn't have to be this thing where it was like, oh, it's like Mad Men kind of scene. You know, it felt forced.
Yeah, and in a general sense, the book is good. I like the book. I do not consider the book to be the masterpiece that I consider the film to be at all. What I just said a few minutes ago is one example of why I think that. This is another one. I mean, it's handled differently in the movie. In the book, it's like, oh, men are horny. So this machine puts out and he fucks her.
Yeah.
Come on.
And
honestly, if that was a possibility, you know, I mean...
Well, I'm just saying, like, that's something we all know, and the book is just pointing out the obvious, you know. and then she uses it, you know, and it turns out like she's bad, or not bad, but like trying obviously to stop him from what he's doing, and so she was manipulating him. And in the movie, it's a lot more interesting because even though, well, I'll come back to that in a second. Assuming Deckard is a human in the movie, which is not a safe assumption at all.
Got a lot to talk about there
yes,
in the next
exactly.
cast.
That's another discussion.
It's a layered cast.
But yeah, I'm trying to say this succinctly when I have a ton of shit trying to come out of my mouth.
Just go for it.
But Rachel in the movie does not have that manipulativeness. She's not trying to stop him. There seems to be genuine attachment between the two of them. And what they do is a expression of how they're feeling. And then because of the fact that like he may be human or maybe not, but she's definitely a replicant and he's a guy who kills replicants, that makes it a lot more complicated of a question and a lot more interesting one than just guy fucks sexy machine.
Well, it's also true because like by changing a lot of the story, they can make that complex character. In the book, he's just a dude who's married to some rando.
Right.
Like an NPC for all intents and purposes.
Well, yeah.
And then he just goes off and has this interesting affair with a robot. Is he cheating? I don't know.
Right.
And again, it gets back into that whole, like, it's the titillating moment for the audience, right? Like, it's like, ooh, he's going to bang this, who he is.
And actually, now that you mention it, that's the most interesting aspect of that is contemplating whether or not that constitutes cheating.
He does think about it for like maybe a hot second, and that's it. But it's, as I was mentioning, like the pulp, the sci-fi pulps that Philip K. Dick is known to have devoured, like to have read, constantly. It makes sense that that's part of the genre.
True.
In that certain aspects are part of like Stephen King's writing when he was also into like pulp fiction and that sort of thing. So knowing that. We've all talked about people seeing this, people maybe not necessarily admitting they haven't read it. I've just outed myself that this is the first time I've read it. Why is this in the sci-fi canon then? What does it bring to the table? I
think if it came out now, it would just be a book. Mm-hmm. I think that historical context is everything here. It's that this was an issue that may have been a lot, more interesting back then because I shouldn't even say that, just a lot newer back then because that was when, technology and computers and everything were really expanding and people were just starting to think of this stuff. It is a good book. I recommend the book. I think it's a good book. I don't think that it's a masterpiece. I think that it has flaws as a work of fiction. I think that it even has flaws in the way that it goes into the themes, as we've touched upon here for the last few minutes. I think that the movie is a lot more complex and artistically a lot, more well done. So why is it in the canon? To answer your question, I think it's just because it was a good book on this topic at a time when there wasn't a lot of that.
That's true. We were still using punch cards in the 1980s to like calculate 3-digit additions,
right,
and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, Dick was just the first to get to this quintessential existential question about technology versus humanity, and when can we finally achieve God status and create something that is like us. He's really tapping into something that was pretty nascent at that point, and I think that, like you said, if it comes out now, it's just a story.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting that you talk about like how it gets into some of its main ideas and the themes. And I found that the writing was very uneven because you would have these like towards the middle or towards the beginning of the book and maybe towards the middle, these philosophical jives that would go on for a page or so about either the androids or like Isidore. We haven't even talked about him.
Oh, the chicken
and
heads?
chicken heads.
Yeah.
So like there was a lot there to be had, but then it would just shift out into like straightforward plot movement, like Deckard hunting in a truck, in a car or something like that. So, you know, I agree too.
Yeah, you said uneven, and I really agree with that assessment. And I think a part of it is Dick he bit off a lot of world here. And he was trying to chew on all these different parts of it instead of focusing on the one thing. Like, oh, there's an ecological disaster. Mm-hmm. Oh, there's these chicken head people as a result of that. Oh, there's these androids. There's this off-world thing. Oh, there's this. It's just too much for the story he came up with. It's a novella, right? It's not even a book.
Yeah, it's 100 or it's 240 pages, something like that.
Short.
So it's a
short
very
book.
short American novel.
And it really today, like you mentioned before, if it was going to be made today, it'd be at least a trilogy.
Yeah.
Just to tell this story and to develop that world and to give enough space for everything to kind of develop. He's cramming 10 pounds of shit into a 5-pound bag.
Yeah. If Frank Herbert got his hands on this material, it'd be 300,000 pages.
Oh, yeah. They're
for sure.
Yeah.
God, can you imagine Tolkien?
Oh, my gosh.
Or Martin.
Yeah. Well, George R. R. Martin would finish after the first book, even though there's 1,000 pages left to do. So
we got a bag on Martin in every cast.
Every cast. Between him and Neil Stephenson, we're going to get those clicks, man.
He's got pages.
Get those clicks. Yeah, I agree, too. I think it's a good intro into the sci-fi genre if you want to hook somebody who's not really into it, doesn't know what we see in it. It's a fast read. It's got some philosophy. The language is palatable.
Right.
You know, it's not too hard. It's not Stevensonian or something like that. So I like it as an intro into sci-fi and androids specifically. So
it's one of those things too where I think you know, out of curiosity, I went online and I typed in, you know, like rank Phillip K. Dick's fiction or whatever. And I looked at a few, and I haven't read other works by this author, but it seems like this is always right around 3 or 4 on the list.
Probably because of its influence on the movies or creation for the movies.
Yeah.
But my point being that people consider that he's written better books than this. And yet I feel like this may be his best well-known.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, I mean, it's really just because it's the Mario Puzo, Francis Ford Coppola thing. You know what I mean? Like, Mario Puzo wrote a book. You know, it's okay if you've read The Godfather. It's fine.
Good for you for reading it.
And the movie is just like maybe the greatest thing that's ever been put on camera before, you know? And so to this day, people still read the book because of the movie. I think a lot of the, you know, sort of critical opinion of this book maybe retroactively because of the movie. That's
fine. Yeah, and so much so that it got a sequel in 2049, Blade Runner in 2049. That, you know, Hans Zimmer is the scorer for that movie, and like I told Sean, I can't believe they got him. Crank it up to 11 when you're watching it. You have to hear the sound in all like 13 directions if you can possibly. Yeah. That's not a little get. You don't spend that money if you think you're not going to get it back.
Correct.
You know, you mentioned that this is, I don't know if you guys have read, you haven't read Other Dick.
I've not read any Other Dick.
I read Man in High Castle. I put that above this all day long.
Well, that is the one that won him the, what is the sci-fi award that everybody aims for?
Hugo.
Crap.
Hugo
It did win a Hugo.
Nebula?
When it came out. No, it won a Hugo.
Hugo, okay.
And this is a good transition to the lightning round because I got some questions for you about his other works. Y'all ready? Grab a bell. For those of you who have not listened before, what are you doing? First of all, come on. There's 25 other episodes you can listen to. That's at least, 13 hours of entertainment and enjoyment
but you're
in your
here
life.
Now. You've made the right choice.
That's true. I'm being too negative. To fill you in, though, dear neophyte, I'm going to ask a series of questions. First person to ring the bell gets to answer the question. If they answer correctly, they get a point. What do the points mean? Absolutely nothing. What is it good for? Nothing.
Oh, wait a minute. I've been living my life as a lie. I thought I was going to get some kind of prize here.
That mean a lot to me.
Damn.
I've been stringing Mike along with the promise of a check, and so I may have just given up the goat. Or the electric sheep.
What are you whispering into the mic over there?
Nothing. Nothing, man. Question number 1. Henceforth, Philip K. Dick is PKD.
Got it.
Okay. PKD claimed to have been given wisdom and clairvoyance from what object?
Oh shit! I shouldn't have rang in.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, what
now you own it.
An object
From an object.
His toilets.
That's a great guess, but no.
Damn.
Mike?
What would PKD?
WWPKDD.
Is that like the new
Yeah,
bracelet?
that's what I'm going to wear around my wrist.
Oh man, I don't know. Calculator.
That's actually not a bad guess either. Better than toilet. So,
My best inspiration's on the toilet.
well, yeah, as one does. But so Philip K. Dick was infamous for using substances, and he.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mike. You were going to say.
Oh no, I was going to say I haven't read it yet, but I went out and bought Scanner Darkly.
Scanner
Darkly or whatever.
Yeah.
I've seen the movie. I
Fucked
remember
up
liking
movie.
It. Yeah. And so, anyways, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, and so Scanner Darkly is later in his career when he was still using substances, but the story goes that he had a wisdom tooth removed and was obviously on opiates, and a woman came to give him Demerol, which is more opiates, and she had a Catholic Pisces fish necklace on, and he recounts the story that when he looked at her and saw the fish necklace, a pink beam of light emanated from it and gave him instant wisdom and knowledge of the ages. Probably just the Demerol, PKD. Just saying.
So basically, what you're saying is toilet was the closest answer.
Yes.
And
I
why
suppose.
was calculator a good guess? Now that's
Because he's a sci-fi writer and it's an
I see.
electronic
I
thing.
see. Okay.
It makes sense to
I
me.
thought you meant good guess as in close.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
I was
Neither of
thinking
you
the
were
same
close.
thing.
Y'all were fucking way off.
It was his
sure.
abacus.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't know what happened there in his life, but I did read a lot of his biography, and the poor guy had a lot going on in his life in terms of death and in terms of his family. And so to imagine a writer who came out with what he did and being known for like multiple day binges, I almost pictured him like Hunter S. Thompson, just like at the typewriter for like 3 days straight, pounding shit out.
Damn.
Not that I want that life, but like it seems productive. So question number 2, we'll call that one a draw at 0.
That's generous.
Which novel was acclaimed as a top 100 American novel of PKD's since 1920? Mike?
It was Ubik or Ubik.
You got it,
I
yeah.
don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Wait a
But
minute.
Ubik.
Where the fuck did you see this?
I told you I was reading about like the ranking of his novels, and
I didn't know we could
Yeah.
do this kind of like
He's-
research.
Mike has been feeling like he wants to own Sean finally, and we end every season in a tie. So he's ready to break this existence here. Yeah, Time Magazine named it one of the top 100 since 1920. I've not read it, as I said earlier, but it's on my to-read list now just because
Never heard
it's
of it.
apparently that good.
Yeah, as I recall, on most of the lists that I came across, it was between that and High Castle for like his best book.
Yeah. A lot of his later work gets trippier because it's based on his revelation from this necklace.
This pink beam.
He goes
toilet.
He goes, yes, maybe it was a bidet. So he goes he goes hard into like Christian theology too, and also believes that he is like controlled by the prophet Elijah for a while. Again, I'm going to say it's probably the Demerol, but like
Could be.
this is where he
So
went.
not the prophet Elijah. That's
Yeah.
what you're saying?
Yeah, probably not
We're just not
Elijah.
going to take that at face value? All right.
No, I'm not going to buy that one. Not yet. All right, last question. Sean, you got to do this to tie here. You ready? So, how many wives did PKD have? And bonus point for knowing the length of his shortest marriage.
I'm going to go with 4, and length of the shortest marriage was 2 months.
Okay, we can play the Price is Right game. Mike?
Well, what was the number that you gave?
He said 4, and 2 months is the shortest marriage.
Okay. All right. I'm going to say... I got a 50-50
I'm
chance
trying
here.
really hard to not give away anything.
I'm
here
going to say
on my face.
5, and I'm going to say
What
2.
the fuck?
2
He went higher. Shit, y'all split it. Which means Mike wins this round because he had the earlier point.
Wait a minute, what?
So, Mike had it with 5 wives. You had it with 4 months.
Okay.
So you split that round. You split that point.
Actually, I said 4 wives in 2 months, but...
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. So
But you were closer.
you were
on the
closer
time.
because
Oh.
it was 4 months, not weeks, for his shortest marriage.
So
and
the
he had the
score is
wives.
1.5 to 1, right? I think we got
Yes.
a real barn burner here.
You
This
win
is-
this round, Mike.
Very nice, very nice. All right, so gents, we are to the recommendation part of the cast. I'm a yes. Enjoy it. It's a fast read. It's pulpy. It's okay. Maybe coming off of Neil Stephenson, I'm like, I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I'll pick up on your last point there. That's maybe part of why I enjoyed it as much as I did. Because the literary side of me is not all that impressed with it, but
No.
it was a really great palate cleanser after Termination Shock. It was something that was taut, and it was a slim, plot-driven book
Yep.
with, I don't know, you felt like what was happening in the dialogue all pertained to something. It wasn't just pages and pages of rambling. So I did enjoy reading it. I do think that even if it's not a great literary masterpiece, it's important enough in the sci-fi canon that it's worth reading. I'm a yes.
Sure, Sean.
Yeah, I agree for canonical reasons. It's okay.
Sure,
If
it's
you go
mid.
with- yeah, it's mid. Yes,
As the kids
would say. You go in with the expectation that it's a product of its time, and I think you'll be okay. Just real quick before we wrap this whole thing up, we didn't talk about the chicken heads and Isidore and all that.
No, we
And
did
I
not
just-
have time.
Real quick mention of just the fact that again, he builds in different layers of humanity, which I find an interesting thing to look for while you're reading it, and trying to kind of parse that out would be kind of neat. And the other thing I kind of like about it is that even though he has certain biological components of the androids or the replicants, there is also that idea that they have mechanical or electronic components as well, which for me was fascinating. I like the idea of
They were
them
like
being-
cyborgs.
Yes.
They were inorganic cyborgs, is
Right.
how I thought of them.
Like they have bone marrow and they have bodies that bleed and everything, but they also probably have a computer in their cranium instead of a brain. I'm like, that's cool. That makes it so Deckard's sort of, I guess his carelessness about killing them is a little bit more palatable. Whereas the film goes in a very different direction, which we'll probably get more into in the next cast. Tune in.
That's
next
right.
time. Same cast channel, same cast time.
And if you want to find out why we hate on Termination Shock so much, we'll save you 3 months of your life and $25 because it's still only hardcover by listening to Termination Shock, which is the first cast of this season. Go back and listen to it. So, fellow nerds, that's it for us in this episode. Join us next time when we discuss the movie spawned by Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, Blade Runner, a 1980s movie with Harrison Ford. I believe it was 82. But if you're looking for some newer fiction, after Blade Runner, we're talking about the three-body problem with, I'm cringing, Shikjin Su?
Chris.
Chris Liu.
Sam.
There you go. I'm so sorry. I will get this right for the next cast. But that's us for now, nerds. We'll see you at the next cast. Cheers.